Hello again, Guyana, and welcome to another edition of Facing the Nation. I am Malika Ramsey. Thank you so very much for joining us this week. We have so far had a very active week in terms of news, lots going on, but today we're going to focus on two issues. Let me also take this opportunity to wish all our hard-working citizens, whether you're in the public service or the private sector, happy belated, I should say, Labor Day to you. Some people celebrate it, some people just observe it because some are enjoying their workforce, others are not, and those who are not, we're urging the relevant persons who are responsible to that to try to make it a little better, because remember, your organizations, your ministries, your entities, your businesses, your companies cannot function properly without efficient staff. So try as much as you possibly can to make it better, to make it as comfortable as you possibly can for the people who work for you and with you, and alongside you, to ensure that your businesses, your corporations, your ministries, your organizations, your departments function the way it should. And I said all that to say that the public service is one of the topics that we'll be focusing on today. The second has to do with to use Minister Harmon's sentiments, he described it as a massacre that is of some of our fishermen. I know the operations are still ongoing, so I will bring you some sentiments, some recorded sentiments from Minister Harmon a little later on in the program. But for now, we are going to deal with the public service, and some unfortunate statements were made recently, that is on Labor Day of itself. That would have been Monday. And for the first time on this program, I'd like to welcome him, the Permanent Secretary in the Department of Public Service, Mr. Reginald Brotherson. Welcome to Facing the Nation, sir.
Thank you very much, Malika. It's my pleasure being here, and I want to associate myself with the sentiments. Happy belated Labor Day. And in fact, I want to wish all of the citizens of Guyana, the generation who arrived, happy arrival day tomorrow.
Okay, right.
It's a pleasure being here.
And thank you for that. You have reminded me and saved me from some a few verbal blows, for want of a better word. Well, as I said, some unfortunate statements were made on Labor Day. Now, the Permanent Secretary would have been reported as debunking these statements. Now, we're going to use Facing the Nation today to give him another opportunity to do that. Unfortunately, the attacks went directly at him and to him, so we're going to hear from him today. P.S. Once again, thank you very much for being here. Let's dive right in. On Labor Day, unfortunately, you were accused by a member of the Guyana Trade Union Congress of cronyism, and words like cronyism were thrown around. You were accused of, I think, showing favoritism. Let's talk about, I know you have debunked those statements, but let's talk about what you think could have probably provoked such statements against you, sir.
Thank you. Right, you put me in a situation to dignify some really unfortunate statements that are baseless, without foundation. In fact, they target the ministry and not Reginald Brotherson per se, but as being the chief public servant, as I call myself, head in public service. I think it's very unfortunate statements. You couldn't. It's difficult to relate to the statements. Statements that are baseless, without facts, without supporting documentation, without citation of examples. And you wonder if this is the person uttering those statements, if they're aspiring to higher office and could use a public space to attack a ministry in that manner. You wonder whether they have an understanding of public service administration. You really wonder.
Do you? Go ahead, sir.
I'm really trying to dissect.
I realize.
Where it is coming from. What wrong has the public service department done to be attacked in that manner? What I know is that we have a hard-working team at the Department of Public Service that manages this public service according to public service rules, laid down procedures and policies, and circulars that issue from time to time. We are rules-driven at the Department of Public Service. So for a person to be making statements like cronyism and favoritism and friendship, it is laughable,
Okay.
to say the least.
Do you believe that such sentiments can have negative impacts or negative effects on the public servants of themselves? Because I tell people in every sector, in every organization, there are people who do the not so right things and there are people who do the right things. Do you believe that this can have an effect on people who are really and truly trying to toe the line and be upstanding public servants?
I don't feel so. As I said earlier, Malika, you can't make statements without citing examples,
Okay.
right? It is like if someone has got an axe to grind and they have been given an opportunity in the public domain to just throw words out, words that you can't even pull back. Widely. But let me say from the onset, the operations of the Department of Public Service. First of all, we are a department. We are a ministry, actually, but the president in his wisdom decided to pull the Public Service Ministry as a department on his wings, rightfully placed that is. We manage the entire structures with the wider public service. We're the guardian of the public service rules.
Okay.
We administer scholarships. We address the issue of salaries and condition of service. Those are our remits in the public service. And we deal with training, both internal and external training. Now, these things have protocol and procedures. If we deal with employment practices, you've got to understand the Department of Public Service normally give approval. Persons are employed in two categories. One, by the permanent pensionable employment situation, that's through the Public Service Commission, and by contractual arrangements. Contract employees, representations are made to the Department of Public Service. We review the representation. We see whether the request for the approval is consistent with the organizational chart and your mandates, and we issue that approval, right? We don't hire any person outside of that scope. It is the subject ministries who will conduct interviews and send the score sheets and request filling of a vacancy.
Okay.
Contract employees will do that. In terms of permanent pension employees, again, you have to come to us to have the vacancy filled or created. We'll give the approval and we say approach the Public Service Commission. So the Public Service Commission got 5 remits. They deal with that. So the person making the statements, I rather suspect they're not clear of the remit of these two entities. Right? Vacancies are advertised in the Public Service Commission, do their selection through a process. It is important to note what is happening in the Department of Public Service. We have managed, in partnership with the Public Service Commission, to have approximately 4,000 public servants transition to the permanent pensionable employment status. In fact, the government mantra was that they were moving away from the parallel public service as it used to be. So we were given a direct mandate to ensure that we tighten these loopholes, to create a situation where employees, citizens of Guyana, has got conform employment.
Okay.
They're protected, a roof over their head, as we would say, being appointed by the Public Service Commission, and that's their remits. Contract employees got specific tasks, specific responsibilities that they carry out consistent with the contractual obligations. So to say that cronyism and friendism and all kind of ism that was uttered by that individual is beyond belief and totally outrageous and inconsistent with good public service norms and protocols.
All right.
We debunked it in its entirety.
One other thing before we move from the negatives, because viewers, we're also going to be focusing on what the public service has done, especially in the last 3 years or so regarding improvement. But one other thing before we come off of that somewhat negative, well, not somewhat, that very negative topic, negative issue. Is the public service going to at all? I know a statement was out there, but is it going to demand an apology? Is it necessary to do that?
Well, thank you. Yes, because as in your earlier statement, Malika, you did say what it has to do with the morale of public servants. And I've since written the General Secretary of the Trade Unions Congress. They were the organizers of the rally. They would have forgotten their speakers on that important day. And I've asked the General Secretary to ask the individual to retract the statements if they cannot provide credible evidence and offer a public apology.
Okay.
This is the ministry of the presidency you were talking about. And you cannot, as I say, just get up out of your bed and it come to your mind, you may have grievance with somebody in the department or an issue that you feel that was not properly addressed in your satisfaction, and to make a wide sweeping statement like that. It's improper.
All right. We'll move on to the positive things now. Viewers, if you're now tuning in, of course, this is Facing the Nation. Today's conversation is with the permanent secretary in the department. Of course, it falls under the Ministry of the Presidency, the Department of Public Service. We're now going to talk about some other matters in terms of the positive and the growth of our public service. Even before we talk about that, P.S. Brotherson, you did give some brief sentiments earlier in terms of good wishes for workers on May Day, which was observed last Monday, the 1st of May. What is your general wish in terms of what the government can do and has done so far to improve the lives of our workers?
Thanks, Malika. You would recognize that within the last 2.5 years, workers had maybe more than 50% salary increases. And in the context of what the economy can offer. You know that we have engaged the Guided Public Service Union in the collective bargain approach that has returned to the table, which in the absence of so many years, that has been one plus. You would recognize also, since His Excellency President David Granger took office, we had a commission of inquiry into the public service. That commission took 1 year to submit their findings, which they did. There's some 8 or 9 recommendations, and we have been working. It's been a work in progress. So many things happened. I talk about the transitioning of 4,000 public servants back into the permanent pensionable fix. That has been a very good goal for us. We have rekindled the Permanent Secretaries Forum. That was something in the recommendation that ought to have been done. The various commissions, the Public Service Commission was re-established. Then we have the Public Service Appellate Tribunal has been re-established. The Office of the Ombudsman has been re-established. So many positive have been going. These are institutions for redress for citizens and public servants. We have done that. If we talk in the area of training, well, we have done so much. In fact, we have created a better environment for training at our location in Durban Street, where we have internal training programs throughout the year. Ministries and departments are invited, they're invited to send their managers to various training programs throughout the year. And we have, in the area of scholarships, in fact, we have started, first of all, a training and assessment needs within the wider public service. And we have something known as a systematic approach to training 2018 and beyond. What is a systematic approach to training? Systematic approach to training is that we did our assessment of our needs analysis within the country. We allow ministries to put their needs in ranking order. We collapse those needs and those ranking. We address it from the aspect of the various development strategies, the Green State Development Strategy, the National Development Strategy, the Human Resource Index of the Caribbean. We recognize we're going to want to be in another 10, 15 years. We've used international best practices where now we can offer scholarships in a better, a more organized, data-driven and transparent manner. How did we get to the transparency? We have opened the doors wide. We have publicized all our scholarship offers in the national newspapers. We have launched a website on March the 7th where anybody, any citizen eligible, or not even not eligible, you could browse the website and you understand where we are issuing scholarships in keeping with our national development strategy. And Malika, I could proudly say, looking at the data alone, within the last 3 years. In 2013 and 2014, 138 scholarships were given, both locally and internationally. From 2015 and 2017, 1,031 scholarships were given. The Department of Public Service Training Division is now administering just 1,400 scholarships.
All right.
within the last couple of years.
I want to interject here on two things, the training and the scholarships. First, let's begin with the scholarships. I know this job creation is never the job of one person, one ministry, or one organization. You talked about the many scholarships, which I know many students, families, and people are really grateful for. Is the public service in a position to fill after these people, especially the ones who are on scholarships overseas, when they return to Guyana, is the public service in a position or going to be in a position soon to help them in terms of more or less giving them jobs? Is that possible?
Thank you, Malika. And that is why I said earlier the systematic approach to training 2018 and beyond, when we address the needs of the country.
Okay.
We address our development agenda. This is where we want to go from here. It is us now adjusting to absorb, and we have started doing that.
Okay.
Right? But having our resources is one thing. How do we manage our resources is another thing. As Minister Harmon said some time ago, Guyana wants a bright nation. And a bright nation is going to have, giving the young people a chance, bright young minds. So we have made those internal adjustments. Making the internal adjustment is simple. Some ministries, based on their sector policies and their strategies for development, had to come to us to have their organization chart refixed and adjusted. And in doing so, is making accommodation for the number of scholars coming into the system to make it better. So we have, over time, we have started that process. If we were not doing something like that, why would we offer the scholarships in the first place? Right? So we have gone way ahead looking at that situation.
Not to have you be too repetitive, but in terms of the training, you did talk about the training for managers, people who are already in the system.
Yeah.
I know there were, and you can correct me here if I'm misinformed, there were advertisements for even, some time ago, for even young people who are now coming out to school that may have an interest in the public service, and for them to be a part of the training college, to, get their training there. Upon the completion of their training also, jobs can be provided. And again, this is at the risk of having you be somewhat repetitive.
It's okay, Malika, and I'm glad you touched on that. You actually beat me to the punch, the Bartram Collins College. We are now enjoying the first set of recruits from the Bartram Collins College, some 59 of them. And they've entered the public service at the level of clerk trees. So they've already skipped one stage coming from that college.
Okay.
Right? They were required, part of the criteria, they were to have 6 subjects, maths and English included. Normal entry into the public service is 5 subjects. They're coming in with 6. So they come at a better, And from the reports received, they're excellent workers. Excellent workers. So we have absorbed them, and we're eagerly looking forward for the next batch. In fact, the present vision for the South College is, 1, you take the young person between the ages of 19 and 21. Through a competitive process, of course, they had to be ranked and screened and be selected. One batch could only be about 60. And they're taken through a process for 9 months. Process of 6 months in the classroom, 3 months in the field, and in the 3 months, part spent in the field, and part spent on work attachment. So they have a feel of what has happened. And at the end of that, they are absorbed into the public service, through the Public Service Commission. So they start with a roof over their head, right? This positioned them, while they work in the public service, for future training. Scholarships, of course, will be available. Scholarships, we know, is a competitive process. The public servants who are already in the system would be retrained as this. We are currently doing this at the Department of Public Service, but the wider vision of the Bartram Collins College is to take that role over. There will be a campus for hospitality, for defense, for foreign affairs, or for the public service. And we have signed a memorandum of understanding with the People's Republic of China to build larger lecture halls at the Ogle campus. So within another 2 years, that is going to take greater shape. We may have housing and all of these things at the Ogle complex. So the Bertram Collins College of the Public Service has a wider mandate. But at the moment, we move it in stages to have it to that level. So there's so many things happening in the Department of Public Service. In fact, on several occasions, when we send out our training calendar for the year, we have to turn some persons away. I think many departments now, permanent secretary, recognize the need for the training and retraining of their staff, but there could be so much we can take at any one time.
Yes, Brotherson, do you find that, because to many other parts of the world, we're a small country, but to me, in my head, Guyana is very big. Are there provisions, and do you have a process whereby, if not all, almost all of the regions, as it relates to the public service, these regions are on par with each other in terms of, and you talked about training extensively, but in terms of what is happening? Because sometimes when we talk about Guyana, in our minds, we center everything here in Region 4, in Georgetown. Is there balance across the regions?
Well, you would recognize from the President's vision the issue of creating capital towns in various communities.
Yes.
That is the way we want to go. It would not be one size fit all, right? But with the shift in approach and the different mindsets and the different resources being channeled into the communities, we're going to have those regions coming up to par. You would recognize that we have our own geographical challenges. Even the IFMAS system cannot reach all 10 administrative regions. So you recognize that you have challenges in that respect. But by and large, some of the regions that are more reachable, more adapted to technology, is going to move at a faster pace than others. And that's a reality that we've got to face with. So we are working together, as I said, as a team, both from the Department of Public Service and our sister ministries, to making the dream and the vision and the realization, the goals of the president. We want to achieve those landmarks, those things.
All right. Especially in what we're dubbing a new Guyana, almost every person I speak with publicly, I have to ask about green state and oil. To combine the two, what we're talking about, moving toward a green economy, green state strategies and so on, and the onset of oil. How will all of this benefit the public service? Or I should ask you, how can the public service, for the good of it, capitalize on this, what is supposed to be a new, or I should say new emerging economies for our country?
Thanks, Malika. What we have done at the Department of Public Service, as I said, with the new approach to training, we have recognized the areas that we need to have more Guyanese trained. We talk about the oil and gas and the environment. Yes, we have fixed our programs to ensure that we have that skill set.
All right.
Right? That level of talent and that resource, human capital resource, be available to exploit the resources. With that, and the economists will tell you, once our oil starts to flow and we get the kind of inflows, public service will be in a better position to receive better emoluments, raise the standard of living, and enjoy the good life. But we have to prepare them for this good life. We prepare them at the Department of Public Service through training to develop their skill sets and their skill base for the economy. Right. So we are
you're
on the ball.
You're on the ball.
And keep it with the realities. And let me extend some more on training. On training. We talk about, yes, scholarships, one, but there are training programs also that we receive from friendly countries through bilateral agreements. China, India, Thailand, we have Cuba, Korea,
and I think
we have Malta,
Singapore,
we have Singapore, so many countries that we have bilateral agreements with that allow us to have our public servants trained and retrained in given areas of focus. When we get these training programs through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we send them widely to the subject ministries, and they make their selection, and we forward we send the persons on the various training. And we do it in a manner where many persons can be given an opportunity.
Right.
Because
So
what we recognize, a period of time that you find a few persons were being allowed to go on these training programs. So we had to
stop
just
that.
put the brakes down and said, look, training is for everybody, or most of us, or many persons who require the training given their area of their potential, their area of focus, or their discipline. And it should be spread wide. And I think we're feeling better now that many persons, some prominent secretaries and heads of department heed the call that we have to broaden the base where training is concerned.
Well, maybe
And
the
we've been doing
sentiments
that,
that were
right?
unfortunately
We're
made
doing
on
that.
Labor
So
Day
when you hear
probably
these
spoke about
statements
that
about
period.
cronyism, my friend, you know, and Malika, why I say the statement is so wild.
Mhm.
If you pick up the Auditor General report
Mhm.
on the Department of Public Service, there's one query to be answered. One query, and that query is prior 2015, which is being addressed.
Mhm. Mhm.
So when you assessing your bill of health as a permanent secretary, the Auditor General report is one of them that you have to do an assessment with to see whether you're doing things consistent with regulation. And in the public service, they will tell you, as I learned from a very young age, and I'm enjoying 36 years of outstanding service. Let me blow my own trumpet.
Yes,
for the time
you
being.
can do that.
Right? The public service is run by two main documents: the Public Service Rule and the Financial Management and Accountability Act of 2003, and as amended by 2015.
Alright.
In those two documents, as we call them the Bible, have all the laid down procedures: how you manage your department, how you manage your ministry, and how you deal with regulations. Simple process. So if you have an understanding of it, and I hope that the person who made those statements is aspiring to that level of leadership, I will ask them to look more closely at those documents, and they'll be more educated on how we administer the public service.
All right. P.S. We're almost at the end of our conversation because I know you're very busy. But before we even wrap up, and again, you're the permanent secretary, so you would have information that I wouldn't have. Is there anything that you would want to make public now in terms of growth and development and so on for the Department of?
Yes. What I could say, especially in the area of scholarship, because as I said, we are flooded, we are swarmed.
Mm-hmm.
We do have our website, scholarships.dps.gov.gy. For the purposes of the prospective applicants or students of the University of Guyana and the Guyana School of Agriculture,
Mm-hmm.
that will be open on March the 7th. So when you go to the website, you will see all the areas.
March?
Sorry,
May the
what am I
7th.
saying? May the 7th. All the areas that the department is offering scholarship. And it's important to know that we do everything within the confines of our budget.
Okay.
We have managed, though, to have quite a healthy budget for scholarships. And I could say it to you, the record keeping with scholarship is awesome. Right? We could tell you every student, every penny they receive, how it is spent, and at what level they are at the university, what their grades are. All of this information we have in our database.
I'm happy that you mentioned that, because even though you said yes, there's extensive work being done and so on. So there's extensive work being done to ensure that there is work for the scholarship students. What about, do you find that there is a willingness for people who leave to go on scholarships and return? Is there a willingness in terms of them wanting to serve the public service department?
Oh, yes, of course. I think many persons recognize that in receiving a scholarship, the taxpayers